The Subaru Forester is usually considered one of the most practical compact SUVs around. Excellent all-wheel drive system, spacious interior, and strong reliability score make it a natural choice in this highly competitive segment, but still, it's far from flawless. We present you 5 reasons why you should not buy a Subaru Forester, at least before you consider other options on the market. Number 5. Underpowered Engine. Whether you're interested in buying a new one which has just been redesigned or an older example, keep in mind that the Forester isn't the most impressive performer around, because for a while Subaru has been offering it with just one engine, a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated flat 4. The latest iteration features slightly less power but more torque than before, but the differences are minimal, so both 5th and 6th generations are suffering from the same problem. They are underpowered. With 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque, the new Forester features one of the least impressive powertrains in the class. And it's not just about the power figures, it's also about the specific torque curve of the Boxer engine, and the fact that there is no forced induction. For that reason, the engine is pretty much gutless until you reach 4,000 RPM, and the fact that it's paired with a CVT doesn't help either. Interestingly, the new generation is actually slower than the predecessor, probably because of the added weight, but in general the difference is marginal and the acceleration is slower compared to most rivals in both cases. Count on about 8.5 seconds to hit 60, while overtaking might be particularly challenging due to the aforementioned lack of low-end torque. Unfortunately, Subaru doesn't have any powertrain upgrades for the Forester on offer, which is a shame. Back in the day, the Japanese company was offering the XT with the turbocharged version of the flat 4 engine, which was one of the most impressive performers in the class, with excellent driving dynamics that worked perfectly with the famous symmetrical all-wheel drive. What's particularly intriguing is that Subaru already has a turbo flat 4 in its current lineup, with 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. For some reason, it remains exclusive to the midsize Ascent, even though it wouldn't take much trouble to install it in this compact SUV, considering that both of these models ride on the same platform and already share a bunch of parts. Number 4. Fuel economy. Boxer engines, despite some pretty strong advantages over inline-4 units, are generally considered outdated, particularly because of lower efficiency. Subaru continues to stick with them and even made them quite fuel efficient, especially if you compare it to MPG ratings from just a couple of decades ago. The official ratings for the current generation Forester go around 25 to 26 mpg in the city and 32 to 33 mpg on the highway, which is actually pretty impressive for a compact SUV with standard all-wheel drive. But that's what it says on paper. In reality, things are a bit different. Yes, it is possible to achieve these figures, but conditions have to be ideal and you have to be extremely light on the gas pedal. Because MPG ratings drop significantly if you practice more engaging driving at a much higher rate than more common inline-4 engines. So the real-world economy is actually lower compared to most competitors, including class leaders, specifically the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V, which return up to 35 mpg on the highway. Moreover, a big portion of the segment has been electrified. The RAV4 and CR-V, as well as models like Ford Kuga, Kia Sportage, Hyundai Tucson, and many others are also available in hybrid variants, with average fuel economy getting pretty close to or even exceeding 40 miles per gallon. In the case of the Forester, the hybrid hasn't even been offered yet and most likely won't appear in the near future. The company did develop a mild hybrid version for the European market, but even that model doesn't save much on fuel, but rather serves to meet strict emission rules of the old continent. Besides fuel, Boxer engines sometimes tend to burn oil as well, especially under heavy exploitation, which leads to more frequent oil changes and service intervals in general, which could potentially increase maintenance costs. Therefore, make sure to check if there were any records of excessive oil consumption in the model year you're looking for. Number 3. Sound insulation. Those looking for a used 5th generation Forester and never owned this compact SUV before may remain unpleasantly surprised with not particularly great sound insulation. Subaru has never been famous in this aspect, and even though the 5th generation did make some improvements compared to its predecessor, it's still not at the same level of sound deadening as most other models in the segment. Road noise has traditionally been associated with Japanese cars, but the 5th generation also comes with a lot of wind noise at higher speeds, not to mention the fact that the engine comes coupled with a CVT, so there is a lot of engine drone typical for this kind of transmission, especially under heavy acceleration. As for the new 6th generation, things do look notably better. This redesign definitely brought some improvements and the cabin feels notably better insulated. This refers to both road and wind noise. It's better, but still not exactly at the level of most refined models in the class. The engine noise is still there, which is no surprise considering pretty much the same combo of powertrain and transmission despite some slight revisions. All in all, things are notably better compared to the previous generation, so if the super quiet cabin is one of your priorities, then the current generation is definitely a better pick. But even a higher noise level in some situations can change the fact that the Forester offers a pretty impressive driving experience. Because the Forester traditionally offers an excellent balance between comfort and athleticism thanks to its specific construction that ensures a lower center of gravity, even though the ground clearance is among the highest in the segment. This allows the installation of a softer suspension setup which helps absorb road imperfections with style while keeping the body lean at a minimal level. Finally, due to the aforementioned high ground clearance and excellent all-wheel drive, the Forester is a way better off-roader than its rivals, especially if you replace base all-weather tires with some all-terrain rubber or something similar. Number 2. Tech features. This may come as a surprise to some because if you look at everything that the Forester has to offer, things should be actually quite impressive. Even the most basic variants are loaded with advanced tech features, whether it's about infotainment and connectivity or the latest safety and driver assistance system. Higher trim levels are even more impressive and come with a large 11.6-inch infotainment system, not to mention more convenience features and all other goodies that come with them. On paper, all of that looks great, but the infotainment system is far from ideal. Graphics, response, and not particularly stylish from the outside, this infotainment system and its screen still feel behind the competition, like a generation older system or something like that. It's far from bad, most rivals are superior, whether it's about the speed of response, graphics, menu navigation, or overall features. What's particularly problematic is the navigation, which needs a whole eternity to load the route. Furthermore, we're not completely satisfied with the safety features either. Yes, Subaru earns 5 stars with ease and features all the latest driver assistance systems you could imagine, but still, some of them are not as smooth as in the case of rivals. Constant beeping is still there despite the updates, while the lane centering system tends to overreact frequently. Number 1. Interior design. Throughout its history, Subaru has never been known as a company that puts too much focus on interior refinement. Yes, most Subaru models were and still are characterized by impressive levels of practicality, but when we talk about style, materials, and things like that, that's never been Subaru's thing. Just remember all the interiors from the 1990s and early 2000s. Subaru has never been great at these things. But things change. Over the last few generations, the Forester improved a lot. When you look at the 5th and 6th generations and their cabin designs, things are significantly better. They look more modern, with more style, while the selection of materials is way better. But still, this is not the year 2010. Other manufacturers worked on their interior as well, and many of them went much further, to the point that it's not easy to differentiate mainstream and premium products anymore. Models like the Mazda CX-5, CX-50, and Hyundai Tucson are the best examples. Although very good, the Forester's cabin is still way below when it comes to style, materials, and overall refinement. For some, especially non-traditional Subaru owners, that may be a drawback, but then again, we all know why people buy the Forester. It may not have the fanciest cabin around, but it's more spacious and more practical than most classmates. Not to mention the driving position and massive glass surfaces ensure excellent visibility. Simply said, the Forester is in a league of its own and draws customers in a completely different way than most of its rivals. That's why it's preserved a large loyal fan base that accepts that the Forester is not perfect and is ready for some compromises in order to benefit from all those unique designs and technical solutions that this SUV has been offering for decades. With the Forester, you either love it or not. There's nothing in between. Thanks for watching and see you next time.